is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. I wanted to do a quick episode today because of the fact that I was talking to somebody who still works over in the Tampa Bay organization, and he was talking about the coronavirus and football because there is a spike now in cases in the Florida area. And I was asking him just how did he think that this was going to affect the plan for not only the NBA opening up or trying to open up in Disney Wild World Sports, but how it might affect the season going forward with the NFL. Now, I spoke, you hear Dr. Faccio speak, the guy from the Center of Disease and Control, and he was saying that we may not have football this year, or we may not, in any capacity, not even, they've always said, we may have football, just might not have the fans in the stands. But I was talking to my friend, what are the contingency plans right now if there is a spike, if there is a second wave, and what would happen if a team basically got infected? We don't hear these details. Now he wouldn't divulge, league information, but he gave us some insight. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't see the NFL not playing this season. If you take a look at the most profitable sporting leagues, it's the NFL, number one on the list, worth over $13 billion. Major League Baseball is a close second, but it's still $13 billion, so it's still $3 billion behind. And then the next after that is the NBA at almost less than half of what the NFL is worth at $7.4 billion. So the NFL is a revenue-generating machine, not only from merchandising, but, you also have, the collective bargaining agreement information that we have, revenue sharing. We also have the weekly drama of everything that goes on. You have sports betting, fantasy football. I mean, it's so interesting how in-depth this is, how much money this produces and how much money this makes. And the big question is always going to be, what happens if there is no football? I mean, there's also some questions I was asking in regards to what happens if there's no football in reference to the collective bargaining agreement. So, the information that I partially received is one of the things that the league is worried about is not the collective bargaining agreement itself, but they're worried about falling into an issue that the MLB is falling into right now, that they're basically renegotiating on the fly a collective bargaining agreement. So there is concern that the players may turn around and say, we signed a new CBA, but we signed it before all this happened. And so now the parameters have changed and we need to sit down and see exactly, what we need to change for our safety and for the safety of our families and for the safety of the fans. So a lot of the NFL is concerned that they're going to turn around and not have a lockout, but they may have a work stoppage until they figure out exactly what's going on. Now, again, this is all speculative. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I said this is speculative what's going to happen. Because the NBA is having a problem right now just trying to get the season restarted. And they're going to play, 22 teams, X amount of games in secure locations in Orlando and have no stands in the fan, but at least finish out the season. But then if you take a look at Major League Baseball, they still haven't ironed anything out. And it makes both the league and the players look bad because, the normalcy of sports is what this country needs. They need to be able to sit down, football on the TV, and watch some competitive sporting event. I've taken up watching golf. I do play golf, but I'm not a golf watcher. But I've taken up watching that. I even watched some big Korean baseball. So the normalcy of the NBA, the NFL, and the MLB is kind of what we need right now. But the problem is, where do you start? And the other problem is, and I asked my friend, is what happens, or what is the contingency if, let's say, 23 players, contract the coronavirus? And I've been in NFL locker rooms during games, before games, and after games. If you've ever been in an NFL locker room, it's not, especially after a game, it's not the most hygienic place. And I know that they will put in parameters in reference to safety, but something's still going to happen. It was funny though, because the new coach of Tampa, my buddy was telling me, he was joking. He said he has Tom Brady now, but he said he's going to take a second string quarterback and put him in quarantine until after the season, because he's concerned that what happens, and he may be half joking, but he's concerned what happens if Tom Brady or another star player goes out sick. I mean, he can't play. And then the bigger question is, again, like I said, how does this affect the CBA? Do they need to almost renegotiate an emergency CBA on the fly to deal with the parameters of the virus itself? And then you have to think into the factor of sports betting, fantasy football. I know people, I'm not a big fantasy football player. I do occasionally bet. It's legal here in Pennsylvania. But like I said, if there was no fantasy football, I wouldn't care either way. But I do know and have a lot of friends that are, play fantasy football religiously, and I know it's a multi-million-dollar business. And same with sports betting. I mean, the casinos are hurting right now because of the fact that they had to close. And at least if they are still closed, let's say, but there's NFL games, they could still generate some revenue doing it that way as well. But like I said, I my biggest concern, and one of this other person's biggest concerns is twofold. Are the players going to turn around and look for another, maybe an addendum to the collective bargaining agreement because of the virus? And what's going to happen if someone on the team contracts the virus? And I think those are two questions that need to be answered before we start training camp July 27th. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more about this in the newspaper over the next couple weeks. Because, like I said, I know each state has different requirements, and each state is indifferent if they're in the red, if they're in the yellow, if they're in the green phase of opening. But that's what I'm interested in finding out. And I'm going to try to talk to a couple other people. I can talk to two other persons on two different teams to see, just get some basic idea what their thought process is and what they're thinking in regards to opening the season, opening training camp. Now, there was also already discussions about not even having the preseason. I'm not against that. And there's been some conversations about the league starting later. So again, like I said, I fear in some regards that we are going to be heading to maybe a work stoppage, but maybe even just a standstill till they can till the players, the owners, and the league can figure out exactly how they want to deal with this and how they want to move forward. Now, from the Giant perspective, like I said, they're talking about opening up training camp July 27th. So it's only, right as I'm recording this, it's June 19th. So we have some time before we have to worry about that. But like I said, I am just curious about this. And like I said, I think personally they're going to play, because when you take a look at a league that's worth $13 billion, they are going to try to squeeze out that revenue as much as they can before potentially something happens in reference to a lockout or a lockdown. And I don't mean a lockout in regards to the players. I mean a lockdown or a lockout in regards to the virus itself. And again, is there going to be fans in the stand? Am I going to be able to go to preseason? I doubt I'm going to be able to go to training camp, which would be, which I would not be happy about. I haven't missed training camp in years, and I haven't missed the preseason or any really games I don't even remember the last time I missed a game or didn't get to go to a game or didn't get to see. I've pretty much gone to every home game in the last probably 10, 15 years. But I don't know. And like I said, we're going to do some more research. We're going to poke around a little bit more. We're going to see exactly what this, because like I said, a league that's worth $13 billion, I don't see them looking at that revenue and saying, we're not going to play. We're just not going to play. We're just gonna let this go by the wayside. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could if you could subscribe, if you could ring that bell, you know what that would be? That would be awesome.